Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I want to talk about Sentry and KNULL, and I want to try and answer, at least early on, the question of should I work on Sentry, should I continue working on Sentry, or should I drop everything and work on KNULL? Now, it's still very, very early for KNULL, and it's honestly still kind of early for Sentry, but I've already started seeing this comment and this question a lot everywhere: Facebook, YouTube, Discord, Twitch, Twitter. So I want to give my take, and I want to try and answer it as best as I can. Obviously, we're going to get more information about KNULL. We're going to get way more players that can have him at level 70 and have him fully built out to make a fair comparison. Right now, the comparisons to Sentry are not really fair. And right now, there's only about 30 players or 33 players who have KNULL above level 60. So the sample size we have for information of that nature, the sample size we have for level 70 KNULLs is very, very small. You can see here at 350,000 points, I'm pretty sure that's the cutoff. So maybe we have now 35 players. When I checked, it was 33, but I'm pretty sure that's a level 60 KNULL. So yeah, we've got less than 50 players who have KNULL level 70, but I'm going to do my best to try and answer the question because they have different costs, and I think they do different things very well. Obviously, these two characters are top 3 in the game, period. For all content, you're going to see Sentry and KNULL in one way or another on basically every content creator's list, on basically every meta tier list, guide, whatever ranking for PvE or PvP. These two cats are going to be in the top 3. Where they're going to land in the top 3, whether it's 1, 2, or 3, is subject to change. Obviously, it's my own personal opinion, so you can feel free to disagree with me or think differently, but I don't think you can go wrong. I want to say it up front. I don't think you can go wrong investing in any one of these characters. If you have the resources, or if you're free to play and you want to spend your time investing in these characters, you are going to get a lot of bang for your buck. They've been created with some of the most outrageous passives we've ever seen, with multiple meta-defining abilities, revives, heals, iframe ignores, everything. Basically, the only stat among these two characters that doesn't exist is reflect. That's the only stat that they're missing, but they have literally everything else, including brand new passives that we've never seen before, like the buff. He has Jean Grey's leadership as his own personal passive. That is beyond busted. Remember, he took Jean Grey and he put her in his pocket. So let me try to answer the question now. I'm going to roll up my sleeves here. Let me try to answer the question, KNULL or Sentry. The first situation I'm going to throw at you is you already started the Sentry epic quest. Obviously, if you are a veteran who had stockpiled a ton of resources, or if you have money to spend on the game, you could have finished the epic quest by now. But for all of you who didn't finish the epic quest and you've started the epic quest, you're 20% through, 30% through, 50% through, my advice to you is finish the epic quest. It's good to finish what you start in mobile games, especially because there's always going to be something shiny and new that comes around. There's always going to be a character that's going to come out that's going to look better or perform better or have cooler animations or whatever. So if you get into the mentality of always chasing the newest, shiniest thing, then you're going to end up with a lot of half-built characters. And I haven't really given this advice much, but it makes a lot of sense. It's something that I don't necessarily have to deal with because I can just, spend money to accelerate the progression of characters. And I also have the money thing, and I have an account that's been active and been played every single day for almost 6 years. So I can sort of benefit from both sides of the coin there. But for those of you that can't, my advice to you is to just focus on what you've already started. Sentry is an amazing character. If I had to grade the two of them, I would say Sentry is better for newer players because of his duality. Sentry appears to be, even if you're not finished building him, because I have people like OGBN, who's very active on Reddit, they have Sentry at level 55, and they can do PvP already, and they can do some PvE as well. I'm not sure how punishing the cap is for not being at level 60 for regular World Boss Ultimate. I haven't asked about that specifically, like everything besides KNULL, but maybe a level 55 Sentry can already do stage 30-40 of Cull Obsidian with bad cards or what have you. So the fact that Sentry can do PvP and PvE before you've even finished the epic quest is outrageously good value for newer players. So in my opinion, if you started the epic quest for Sentry, even if you're only like 10-20% the way there, go through it and finish it and get your level 70 tier 3 Sentry. The other reason why I suggest finishing Sentry if you started him is because overall, Sentry is cheaper than KNULL. Now, there are some additional, things that you're going to need to get, like Moonstone. You're going to need to build up Ares and Dakin, and that can actually take you months if you don't have any rank up tickets or mega tier 2 tickets stockpiled, right? Because you're going to need to get some of these characters, maybe not mega tier 2 tickets, that's more for Molecule Man, but rank up tickets, right? You're going to need rank up tickets because otherwise it can take you months to farm Dakin's bios. You get 10 per day. You only get a maximum of like 6 or 8 of Ares bios per day if you count all of the shifter bios that you can get for Ares. So, you may have to invest a month or two's worth of the tokens, and you have to be very careful when you're doing that. KNULL is a bit more straightforward. You just invest in KNULL, but for Sentry, you have to invest in all these other characters in order to complete the epic quest. Otherwise, you could have the resources, you could have all the tier 3 materials for Sentry, but if you have a 1-star Dakin, it's not going to work. So you may have to skip your token investment for 1 or 2 months and grab these 3, 4, and 5-star rank up tickets to use on Ares, to use on Dakin, in order to build your way up there. But I think it is worth it overall. And then you'll have a wider roster, right? You'll have these 5-star characters. Maybe you've invested the crystals into Moonstone, etc. KNULL, on the other hand, I do think that he's worse for PvP. And he's definitely worse for PvP than what I remember Sentry being at level 60. And on top of the fact that I know that people can solo teams with a level 55 Sentry, it's not even my Sentry. So their Sentry at level 55 can solo teams in PvP. My KNULL can't solo teams in PvP, and he's level 60. I'll jump into a match right now so you guys can see. I had Rocket there just as a really short comparison because you can't really see him, so you can just sort of focus on the two towering behemoths. But I'll take you guys into the fight now, to be honest, but I want to use his leadership because he doesn't need sentries. But the thing is, KNULL just can't survive. Well, I'll show you, but he basically just can't survive. I don't have a PvP CTP on him, but he just cannot survive. Whereas Sentry can survive. Not only can Sentry survive, but Sentry has way shorter cooldowns. Like, yeah, his cooldown on 1 is short, but it's not an iframe ignore. So you're basically in a situation where, see, he's already procced my ability, and I can't really do anything about that. So I'm going to do my best here, but... Okay, wow, we got the kill there. I'm a little bit shocked. But now we have to deal with him again. And I'm gone. I was going to say now we have to deal with him again. On the flip side, Sentry, man, again, he doesn't even have guard break immunity. So that's the thing. My KNULL that I was using just now, he had guard break immunity. Sentry, oh, I just died to reflect. Sentry doesn't even have guard break immunity. And yet he's able to crush teams. And I think a lot of that is the fact that his first skill has iframe ignore. Right, I think that's really what sets Sentry apart from KNULL, is that KNULL's iframe ignore skill is like Ghost Riders. I was actually really impressed that my KNULL was able to kill his Sentry. There, he does have a surprising amount of burst damage, but KNULL's iframe ignore skill, you have to wait, 15 seconds from the start of the fight because it's a 30-second cooldown. On the flip side, Sentries, you have to wait 3.5 seconds. So it's just, you can hide and you can protect yourself so much more with this skill, and you can spam this skill, which is an iframe, so it protects you, and it's an iframe ignore, which means that it interrupts their skill and it stops them from doing the rest of their skill. So it's such a powerful ability to be able to spam so much, and we've seen characters who are not even that impressive in PvP become so dominant just because they have one skill with iframe ignore, Black Widow, Yelena, etc. He has this, he's got one of the highest base stats of all characters. He's got all these other buffs and effects and passives, and he has the most toxic, spammable iframe ignore. It's exactly like Nova, right? Little Nova, who like 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, was unstoppable for PvP because he would just lock you in this iframe ignore. You see, it's 6 seconds. It's basically like if Nova got a tier 3. That's what Sentry feels like, except he's even stronger than that because he's native tier 3, so his base stats are actually even higher. So for PvP, KNULL may end up being the second best PvP character in the game, and he may be a lot closer to Sentry than we think now, but definitely at level 60, he cannot compete with Sentry. He just cannot compete with Sentry. I don't feel unstoppable like I did with Sentry. I don't feel like I can solo an entire team with KNULL the way that I can with Sentry. He just doesn't have as much in his, his 5th skill doesn't have that gigantic AoE that Sentry's does. It doesn't have that guard break immunity right from the beginning where he bursts out the sun. It doesn't have an iframe like Sentry's 5th skill does, so you can dodge Jean Grey's 5th skill, right? It's got a 20% heal, but Sentry's he's just built different. It's 25% heal. Yeah, he's just built different. And here's the other thing. Sentry has 8 seconds of penetration, 8 seconds of 80% penetration, whereas KNULL only has 2 seconds of 100% penetration. So in my opinion, although KNULL may end up being very, very good for PvP, Sentry was built for PvP. But he's still very, very good for PvE. But honestly, if I then had to compare them for PvE, looking at what KNULL can do, looking at Reddit posts where people are clearing stage 99 Corvus with a level 60 KNULL who has no Obelisk, no ISO 8 set, and no Uru, and there are screenshots of this, and they list their account, and they list their stats and their cards. The fact that he can do it with a completely naked build at level 60 just shows you how powerful that 5% pierce is. I think without that 5% pierce damage, hands down, Sentry's better than KNULL for all content. But because of the pierce, I do think that KNULL is going to end up, when we have all things calculated and we have 2 native tier 3 level 70 maxed out build with a rage or whatever, when we have Sentry and KNULL compared side by side identically, I think that KNULL is going to end up on top. I do think that he's going to end up being better than Sentry, and to top it all off, not only offensively but defensively, because Sentry revives when he dies in PvE, and he revives once. But KNULL can literally revive 3 or 4 times in a match because it's a 2-minute timer, and he gets 6 seconds of immunity where he can't die, he can't take any damage at all, right? Like, you could revive with Sentry in PvE against World Boss, and if you make a mistake, you're just going to die again. But with KNULL, you're going to heal back up, right? So it's not going to, in those 6 seconds that he's down to 1 HP, you're not going to die. And then he heals right back up. So if anything, at the very least, you would survive 6 seconds longer than Sentry would. So we're going to do a quick little comparison here. Again, it's pretty much impossible to do a really fair comparison between these two characters because Sentry has all defense down and KNULL doesn't, and Sentry's level 70 with the CTP of energy and KNULL is level 60 with an obelisk, but I'll do my best here to compare them. We're going to pop his tier 3. Again, he stacks 100% all defense down, which we think is comparable to Pierce. Now, how much Pierce, we don't know, but maybe 5% Pierce is equal to 100% all defense down. I don't know. So that was a 20-second clear on stage 50. Okay, now let's see if we do a pretty equal comparison. We're going to go over to stage 50 on Proxima. I actually don't even know how fast he does this. I know that he can do stage 99 in whatever 3 minutes, but now let's see how fast he does this stage. We're just going to give him these striker. Oh, we don't need to give him the defense down striker. We'll do it without the defense down striker. I just want to compare his Pierce, but I'm pretty sure this is going to be a similar amount. It might take him a little bit longer because he's going to have to build up to the tier 3. He might get interrupted by Proxima's her iframe, not iframe, her like half cutscene, her cutscene, Alex. Yeah, he might get interrupted by her cutscene, but we'll see. Yeah, there he just lost targeting. There's the cutscene. She's down to like 4 bars, I think. So I think with a rage, he would have had the damage to just finish her off. And we did lose targeting a little bit, whereas Sentry has a little bit better targeting. Yeah, so level 60 with an obelisk versus level 70 with an energy, and he was what, 15 seconds slower with a comparable 50-50. It's not the best comparison because Proxima has less HP and less defense than Cull Obsidian, but you can kind of see what I'm saying. So at the end of the day, the best comparison is going to be on a very difficult stage like stage 99 or stage 10 of KNULL or something like that. But I do think that KNULL, I said against KNULL, World Boss Legend, but I do think that KNULL is going to end up being better than Sentry for PvE because of, he basically has everything that Sentry has, except he also has the pierce damage. He has the accumulation, right? He's got the 1% accumulation. He's got the chain hit damage. Sentry's accumulation is also 1%. Yeah. And then they have very similar base stats, extremely similar base stats. They're both universal types. it pretty much just boils down to the fact that Sentry has 0 pierce and Null has 5% pierce. 5% pierce is a lot. And to be honest, it seems like Null is more proc friendly because of 4 cancel 5, whereas in my opinion, I hate Sentry with an obelisk. I hate it. I know it can work, but I hate it. I hate trying to proc on, 2 cancel 5, cancel 4. It almost never works. For me, you need to have like lightning quick reflexes and you need to not get interrupted at all. So in my opinion, I would say that Null would then be a little bit less rage required than Sentry would be. So at the end of the day, if I had to give you, a clear-cut winner, I would probably choose Sentry because he's cheaper. I haven't gone into like a deep discussion on the cost, but we know he's cheaper. You don't have to do any of the levels 60 to 70. Like, you don't have to search for his potential because it's through the Epic Quest. You don't have to spend any bios for Sentry or Black Antimatter because we found out you can do that for Null, but you don't have to spend any of that stuff, and he only costs 2,500 CCF. That sounds like a lot, but we know that Null costs 3,000 CCF and all the extra gold, right? Sentry doesn't cost very much gold, if any. I don't think the Sentry Epic Quest costs much gold, maybe like 20, 30 million gold. The Null's building was 100 million gold, so it's 100 million gold, it's 500 more CCF, it's like 15,000 bios or 12,000 bios. Null is way more expensive, right? Obviously, you have the other costs involved in the Epic Quest for Sentry, but you end up getting those things, right? You get to keep the 5-star DAC and you get to keep the 5-star Ares. You don't get to keep any of the stuff you sacrifice for Null. So overall cost, Sentry's cheaper. In terms of how long it's going to take you to do it, I honestly think that farming 3,000 CCF for Null is going to take you and farming the gold is going to take you longer than doing the Epic Quest. But again, I haven't sat down with a calculator and figured it out. If you've already started the Epic Quest, I would definitely say go for Sentry and finish him off because of his PvP value. So, majority of the time, 60%, 70% of the time, I would say no matter what, just build Sentry first. That's what I would say, because unless you're pushing very high level Null already, and for some reason you don't have Sentry or Null, then Sentry is going to help you as much as Null is, right? If they can both clear stage 99, it's kind of irrelevant which one you build because they're both going to give you the same thing. And we have a ton of other characters that can do stage 99 too, like Deadpool, Ghost Rider, and a whole bunch of other characters, right? And if you're lucky and you get a little bit of Pierce on your cards, then the number of characters that can do stage 99 opens up even more. So although Null is better at this point for PvE, it's just a more saturated pool of characters. We already have so many good PvE characters. The only place where Null is really going to stand out and you're really going to see a huge difference between Null and every other character is against Null, is for World Boss Legend. Now, in the future, in 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, I'll try to future-proof this video a little bit. If we start to get a lot more content that's similar to World Boss Legend, if we start getting more World Boss Legends or more content that requires Pierce to do well in, to advance in, then that's going to raise Null's stock a lot. On the flip side, if we get more PvP content, if they rework timeline and they make better rewards, that's going to improve Sentry stock big time. And also, you keep in mind, he can do both with the same build, whereas I don't think Null's much of a threat in PvP without a PvP build. But yeah, that's my take on it. They're both amazing characters. You're not going to lose anything by investing in them. These are characters that are going to be meta for at least a couple of years, in my opinion. This is the new wave of Jean Grey and Thanos circa 2016, 2017. These characters are the ones that I think that they're banking on building the game around for the next couple of years. They're super recognizable. They're in the comics right now. So I really think that this is sort of their tie-in before we jump back into MCU content. And then when you think about the MCU content, what are they going to release? Native tier 3 Shang-Chi, right? Like, they're not going to do that. Shang-Chi's already in the game. So all the MCU content besides Eternals is going to have to be regular tier 1 characters. Black Widow, Taskmaster tier 3, Shang-Chi, right? Spider-Man. All that stuff is they're not going to release a new Spider-Man native tier 3. So your investment here is not going to be eclipsed anytime soon. Maybe they'll try to sneak in a Doom tier 3 or a Strife tier 3 or whatever, but I don't think they're going to release another native tier 3 this year. And if they do, I think it's going to be with Eternals at the end of the year. So yeah, that's my take. That's my opinion. Again, just based on my thoughts and me playing the game. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.